Hello and welcome to 5-7. Today we're reviewing those addition properties. Now we've really focused on these in the past and they don't really change even if we're using decimals because decimals are just another way to express numbers, but we'll talk about it again. The associative, commutative, and identity properties is what we're going to be talking about. It says you can use properties of addition to find sums, the answer to an addition problem, of whole numbers and decimals mentally. Okay, so that's kind of helping. It tells you which rules you can follow to do things mentally. When there are no parentheses, add an order from left to right. Okay, let's give it a shot. To start off, I just wanted to do a little review of the commutative and the associative properties. Commutative comes from the word commute. I commute to and from work, which means I kind of go back and forth. It refers to the numbers being able to switch. Okay, so for example, 3 plus 7 is the same as 7 plus 3. They both equal 10. Or A plus B is the same as B plus A. That's the commutative property of addition. We also have the commutative property of multiplication, which is 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. They both equal 6. Or A times B is the same as B times A. Okay, so it's just allowing you to switch things around if there's an addition sign or a multiplication sign. The associative property comes from the word associate or group. Now, whenever you hear grouping, you should think of parentheses, because parentheses and brackets group things together. So, for example, if I'm adding 3 numbers together, 5 plus 3 plus 7, I could add 3 plus 7 first, and then add in 5. Or I could add 5 plus 3 first, and then add in 7, because both times I get the answer of 15. So whenever you see parentheses or 3 numbers, you should think of the associative property. Same with multiplying. 2 times 3 times 4, I could do 3 times 4 and then multiply that by 2, or I could do 2 times 3 and then multiply it by 4. Both times I'm going to get 24. Here I'm going to get 12 times 2, and here I'm going to get 6 times 4, which again, both of those equal 24. So commutative and associative don't change when there's fractions. It doesn't change when there's decimals. It's all the same thing. I can switch 1/3 plus 2/5, or I could do 2/5 plus 1/3. It's the same thing and follows the same properties. So let's try it out. Elijah recorded the number of different movies he watched last month. Use properties of addition, so that's commutative and associative, to mentally find the total number of movies. So I need to do 5 plus 27 plus 15. So what they're trying to have us do here is notice that 5 and 15 makes a 20, and that's easy to work with. So what I want to do is I want to switch the numbers around, okay? I want to do, instead of 5 plus 27 plus 15, I'm going to have 27 plus 5 plus 15. And then I'm going to group, so I'm using, first I'm switching them around. So I don't have any groupings yet. And so that's the commutative property, to switch around. Okay? When I'm switching them around, that's the commutative property. Even though there's 3 numbers, it still is the commutative property because I'm just switching them around. Now once I put these parentheses in to say I want to do 5 plus 15 first, that's the associative property, and that's our grouping. That whenever we're adding grouping, and parentheses means do it first, that's called the associative property. Now I can mentally add 5 plus 15 is 20, and I can do 27 plus 20 in my head, it's 47. That's a lot easier than saying, okay, 27 plus 5, that would be 32. 32 plus 15, ooh, yeah, see, a lot harder. So we are trying to switch the numbers around using the commutative property, and then putting parentheses using our grouping, so that we can add it easier. So he watched a total of 47 movies. Hopefully that was in a month. Yikes. He's a movie watcher. Anyways, let's try another one. The identity, now we're adding kind of a new one in here. The identity property states that the sum, that's the answer to an addition problem, of any number and 0 equals the number. Okay, so if I have 5 plus 0, it equals the number, which is 5. All right, so use the properties to find 1 and 8 tenths plus 2 and 6 tenths plus 0 mentally. Okay, so here's our problem here we're starting with. So what I'm going to do first is, I'm going to break them apart. Okay, so I have 1 plus 8 tenths, and I have 2 plus 6 tenths plus 0. Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to do the commutative property to say it's much easier to add 1 plus 2, and then I can add 8 tenths and 6 tenths together. So I'm switching them around. I don't know why we're breaking them apart, but guess we are. So I have 1 plus 2 is going to give me 3. Oh, now I'm adding my grouping symbols. So that's the associative property. So first I switch them, then I group them. Okay, so I'm going to do 8 tenths and 6 tenths. 8 and 6 makes 14. So that's 1 and 4 tenths. Okay, 3 plus 1 and 4 tenths is 4 and 4 tenths. Plus 0, I'm going to use the identity property. Anything plus 0 is itself, so it's 4 and 4 tenths. Okay. So here we just wrote the numbers in expanded form. And then we could switch around. I want to add my whole numbers, and then I want to add my decimals together to kind of make it a little easier. If that floats your boat, go right ahead and do it. Because I guess that is easier to add them mentally if you do it that way, as opposed to writing them down and adding them, lining up the decimal points. But anyways, let's look at one more problem here. Use properties of addition to find each sum, answer to an addition problem, mentally. Show your steps and identify the properties that you use. Now listen, this seems silly to write out commutative property, associative property. Let me tell you, in high school we do proofs, okay, and where you have to know why you can do all these different things. And so this is a really good habit to get used to, saying I can do this because of this property. And you have to do it. You have to write out the property. You have to write out every single step along the way and why you can do that. So it's a good strategy to get used to for when you do those proofs. Okay, so I see that 9 and 1 makes 10. So I'm going to switch numbers around using the commutative property. So I'm going to have 27 plus 9 plus 1. Okay, I want to do 9 plus 1, so I'm going to first, I want to do it first, so I'm going to group them to make it 10. 27 plus 10, now that is 37. So we need to just remember these properties to write them down along the way. In your book, you do have to write them out. There's just a blank line. Okay, so when we practice them tomorrow, it's just going to be a blank line. So you're going to be either writing associative property because of the commutative property. And I'm adding 0, so that's the identity property of addition. Okay, so we're going to be writing all these out. So it's really good to start practicing. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.